iron farms, brick farms, lumber farms, and automated veggie farms, and much more. This video is going to be your Pokopia Farming 101 Basics video. No fancy builds, just simple explanations on how to set up farms so you can get almost every farmable material you need in this game. These builds are not meant to be pretty, but just be a foundation so you could probably make more fancier builds with this information. The first automated farm that we'll be going over is going to be our vegetable garden farm. This is a farm that is really OP in my opinion, because it doesn't require any water Pokemon at all. You don't have to water it, you don't have to put a basin by it, so water Pokemon come by and water your plants. It is self-sufficient. Now, the vegetable farm is going to have its full effect after you have completed most of the Rocky Ridges storyline, where you're going to be able to learn how to cook and get recipes from our favorite chef Pokemon. And these are all going to play a very important role. Now, also in Rocky Ridges, you're going to find something in a certain area right over here that is a sprinkler. This is probably the first time that you bump into a sprinkler. You're going to need that for this farm, specifically that sprinkler. And sprinklers work when they are close to a water body, but I'll show you exactly how it works after a bunch of testing. Also, they might show up in shops, so you can probably buy one as well. Okay, so here we are in the location where I'm going to show you how to build this lovely farm. The first thing you're going to do is make sure you have 5 blocks away from an edge. If you are building at an edge, I am at an edge. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to go drop my sprinkler right over here in this location. Once you have your sprinkler set up in this spot, you're then going to go ahead, go into rototiller mode, and you're going to do this exactly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and do the same exact thing in the opposite direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're going to do this up and down as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once you have that all set up, you're basically going to connect this entire farm by doing a pyramid-like shape. So from the top, you're going to have one over here like this, one over here like this. Then you're going to go 4, 1. Hope this pyramid shape is kind of obvious what we're doing here. So you're basically making a pyramid coming down 1, 3, 5. Then we're going to go 7. So one more out. And then the next one is going to be 9. So one more extra than the other. So once you do this, you're then just going to turn your camera and fill it out on all the sides. Beautiful. All right, this is looking clean, and when you're done, it should look exactly just like this. Now, how exactly are we going to get the sprinkler to work? Well, all you have to do is just place a block of water, which is 5 blocks away. So we're going to have to sacrifice just 1 block within this entire area that we have created in order to provide a water source. The decision is totally up to you, but I like just doing something on the 5 block area in one of the corners, so you can pick one of these. Let's go with the one closest to the shore. So I'm just going to break this over here. And that's it. I made my little hole. Now, if you're trying to figure out how exactly to get water over here and you didn't build around a water body, this is where the Pokemon requests are going to come in handy. Now, Paldean Wooper actually has its own request, and once you complete that request, Paldean Wooper will then teach you how to absorb water. So normally when you hold Y, you just suck up air, but then after completing that, you can ZR any body of water to place anywhere you want in the game. Now, let me go grab some water using that trick right below here. And I'm just going to drop it right in this block right over here. So, boop. And you can see now that the sprinkler is completely working, and you're going to see every single one of these patches actually get fertilized. There we go. Their ground is tilled, it's hydrated, and now it's going to be ready for you to drop your plants wherever you want. Now, personally, what I like to do when it comes to farming in these areas is I like taking a certain crop and just planting it on a corner. So I'll take a tomato here like this, put this over here, and I'll just kind of complete an entire section. Obviously, you are going to blend in some plants. That does happen. So get that over here. Okay, so I have some tomatoes over here. Now on this side, you could go ahead and drop wheat. And then maybe on another side, you can go ahead and do beans. And on the closer side, you could just do like potatoes over here. Something I did want to point out is I put Venusaur in a habitat over here, and Venusaur has two specific specialties, litter and grow. Venusaur is going to be able to use grow, which is going to automatically come over to my plants and start making them grow, as well as the specialty litter, and that means I get to drop leaves over here, and leaves are going to be important for salads, as leaves are a core part of a salad when you do create that food. I'm going to put it dead center so it always will be taking care of the plants. And if you're curious on how to get Venusaur, you can either do this specific habitat, or a much easier one that we've talked about is going to be this one. Just make sure that you use the habitat shuffle trick. So if one of the other Pokemon spawn in here, you move them out by just bringing them to a new home, a 2x2 grass, and then Venusaur could just spawn up in there. So pretty simple. So pretty much Venusaur's job is simply going to be just to grow. So you can see Venusaur's always going to be in action here. So see the plants? Come on, Venusaur. They're not fully grown yet. Oh! There it is. There it is. Venusaur making the plants grow. Yeah, so Venusaur is automatically just going to spot these plants and just start making them grow. And all you have to do is just use a powered up version of cut, just like this. So I'm just going to cut over whatever Venusaur is doing like that. And I'm just farming my crops. I just come over here, do a little bit of this. Venusaur is going to see all the issues here and then just kind of grow back most of my stuff. So here we go. Suck up all those tomatoes, suck up all the wheat you have, all those potatoes, all that wheat. And then Venusaur is in the background just like, okay, I gotta go ahead and do this again. Boom. Look at that. Getting tons of food, by the way. Yeah, so Venusaur is just going to do its own thing. There it is. It's growing. And then you could just keep stacking up your food in here. Like, look at that. 40 potatoes on that farm. Tons of food. Beans, potatoes. And then Venusaur is also dropping leaves at the exact same time. And if you do a date skip, or if you're not a date skipper and you wait for the next day, you're going to come back to more crops grown all the time because they're consistently getting watered every single time. So let me just jump back in the game. Again, I date skip because I have to test to see what works and what doesn't work in the game. So that's the reason I'm doing it, if you are wondering in the comments. And look at that. We are now coming back to a garden full again, and you just rinse and repeat all over again. You can move multiple grass Pokemon inside of the area. If you happen to not see the Pokemon you want because your area is overcrowded like mine, Pokemon do shift in and out. So all you have to do is just have some honey on you. So I'm going to use my honey like this, and then go over Venusaur's habitat, and then Venusaur will show up and start doing all the farming again for you as soon as you collect your crops. Pretty simple. All right, that's how to do an automatic farm for veggies. The next farm I'll be talking to you about is going to be a vending machine farm. Now, vending machine farms are pretty important for the sake of getting items in here. Now, on the bottom row, you have 6 little bottles you can get. Chili sauce, soda pop, moo moo milk, rosary tea, and 2 fresh waters. We don't have any data on how it works exactly when you press it, but what I think is you have a out of 6 chance of getting a specific one, except for fresh water, you get more of a chance. So with these, you line them all up wherever you get them in the game, and you want to find a power source, possibly like that windmill all the way down there, and you connect some poles over to it to draw the electricity. Now, just a quick note to everyone, there's a certain amount of objects each main power source can charge up, so just be aware of, you know, what it could do, and if it does have too many things connected to it, it'll then stop powering up because there's too many objects drawing electricity. So just keep that in your heads when you're playing. All right, so when a vending machine farm happens is once per day you'll be able to get a drink. So if I just inspect this, boom, I got some moo moo milk. And you'll make your way and work down all these little vending machines, and sometimes you'll get a little chance of extra popping out. It's just a lucky thing that happens. Now, exactly what's the purpose of these? Well, I talked a little bit earlier about getting the Wooper ability during the farm to drop water and spit it out. When you have these objects in your game and you complete the Wooper quest, you'll be able to actually spit out various substances of water. And the question is, how can you bring hot springs from another area into this area? Or how could you bring lava from rocky ridges all the way here? Well, that's what these are meant for. You can literally suck up any one of these with this ability that you get. You have to do the Piplup requests, which lead to Wooper, which gets you this ability, which is pretty cool. You swallow the entire water, so I'm going to swallow the fresh water like that after a vending machine, and you can go anywhere you want and drop this. Now, the cool part about it is you can go ahead to the edge and just hit A and spit it out, and it's unlimited. It's not one entire little pump of water. You can keep going and going and going as long as you don't gulp it by hitting B by accident, or you have to do something else. So you're good to walk around the island, create your waterfalls. It's very nice. Okay, now let's talk about each individual one. So the fresh water, as you can tell, is going to straight up just be fresh water. And the cool thing is there are certain environments or habitats that work with these. So I made a hydrated tall grass by being next to this one. Your soda pop over here is going to be your ocean water. So if you do an environment over here, now it's seaside tall grass, so you don't have to be next to the sea in order to create habitats. Then you have your rosary tea, which basically, a nice little sauna for your Pokemon. And there are Pokemon that do spawn at the sauna. And I totally forgot if that is actually a, let's see. Just a regular tall grass. All right, that doesn't have a habitat. Then we have our Moo Moo Milk Coffee, which gives the appearance of muddy water, but believe it or not, it's actually coffee, not really muddy water. You first discover this on Bleak Beach, where you discover Wooper, and if you place the grass there too, you can get a Clodsire that spawns. It's pretty cool, and it just gives that nice aesthetic if you're trying to put a bunch of muddy Pokemon in that area. And then you have the red, hot, spicy pepper chili sauce, which is going to pretty much give you lava, so you can decorate this with your fire type Pokemon. And that's pretty much it. You have these bodies of water, so that way you don't have to drink any more of those. I like to just have these all together. So if I'm feeling like, oh, I want to get some sauna water, there we go. Don't forget to replace it back though from your main source. Or you could, obviously just go with the vending machine option of carrying them with you. But in case you wanted to make little pools so you can create stuff, that's the way to do it. And then just walk around and then spit it out. That's the way to do it. All right. Hope that farm was helpful. Remember, once per day on the vending machines, and feel free to put this anywhere you want. Now, we talked about this farm at the beginning of the game. If you watched the 64 early tips, let me know if you watched it in the comments down below. But this is going to be a flower farm. Now, it's a little more advanced than the initial one we talked about because you're going to need a Pokemon that knows the ability Gather. So this Pokemon picks up stuff that drops over here. You're going to need a Combee because Combee has the specialty called Litter. And what Combee litters is honey. So what happens essentially is when Combee drops the honey, Girafarig is going to go walk around, spot that honey, pick up that honey, and then drop it inside of a community chest, which means you're going to need a couple of things too. A community chest right over here, which is pretty much always going to be empty. But when Girafarig drops something in there, it'll fill up. And as you can see, look, we got 35 honey already sitting in there. And honey has a very big use in this game. One, it's going to be able to be used in order to summon Pokemon back in their natural habitat. So if you go over an environment and a Pokemon isn't there because there's too many Pokemon loaded in, you swipe a honey, use it, and the Pokemon will come running back in immediately. Speaking of using honey, I think my Vespiquen actually ran off in the background. So I'm going to just grab the honey here so we can see this live. Grab the honey like this. Make sure you're over the correct Pokemon's habitat. She's somewhere here. There she is. And then I'm just gonna use it. Where is she? There she is. What a lovely aroma. The next use of honey is going to be for the specific Pokemon Vespiquen, which has a very unique specialty called Gather Honey. Pokemon with the Gather Honey specialty will give you special furniture if you bring them honey. Furniture is really important because they're going to be used to be making certain habitats, and believe it or not, there's some interesting things she might have. And then when you talk to Vespiquen, you're just going to say, I brought some honey, and then Vespiquen will have a daily rotation of items. Simple curtain, a luxury bed, which is pretty important to get, cute sofa, and plain stool. I actually need a luxury bed to make a habitat, so I'm going to grab a luxury bed. Very nice. Thank you very much, Vespiquen. And what I like to do is I added a big storage box over here. So any items I get from Vespiquen, I could just store over here just so I know, okay, this is from Vespiquen and I'll come back to this later. That way you don't run into any storage issues. I have a little smaller box here that you could just put natural honey that shows up. And I keep the storage box, the community box over here. Girafarig can go ahead and gather what it needs. And that's pretty much the simple setup over here. And naturally, when you see Sparkles, pick up the honey yourself and just go ahead and drop it into your boxes, right? Also, a quick note, having a bunch of flowers planted is going to be really big advantage for getting more Sparkles to show up and gather the honey and place it inside of your community box or wherever you want to store it for yourself. More flowers, more honey, tons of more Pokemon in the area, you have more chances of summoning them. It'll be really annoying if you don't have your honey to call them. That's actually happened to me. So always make flower farms. Also, it's pretty. It's very nice. Looks good in your base. All right, let's move on to the next farm. Now let's talk about a farm that has a bunch of basic materials. But basic is an understatement because these materials are going to be used for a lot in your game to craft various items. Anyway, let's walk you through this farm that we have over here. Now on the left, we have a leaf farm. And to put it simple, all these little farms are accomplished by Pokemon that have the specialty called litter. First off, leaf farm is done by Pokemon like Vileplume and Venusaur. Simply, they'll just be roaming about, and as the time goes on, they'll be dropping their leaves. Pretty simple, right? In order to get Venusaur, you can either use the garden terrace, which is wildflowers, garden chair, garden table, and a garden light that is powered up. You can get Venusaur to spawn, or you can do what we did in the beginning of the game and just simply put 8 flowers together to get a field of flowers, with Venusaur being the very rare chance of showing up. But we talked about the habitat shuffle trick already, where you move Pokemon out and then Venusaur just ends up showing up as you move them out and free up the habitat. So that is the trick there to get Venusaur. Now Vileplume is simply going to be a chancy resting area. This could be from a little sparkle, a little habitat hit that you may find by a bush. You're going to need any kind of hedges, a seat that's wide, and a chancy plant that will show up most likely in your Pokemon Center rotation shop, or you might just see the recipe there. And these are going to be your leaf Pokemon. Now, believe it or not, there is one easily obtainable Pokemon that does drop sticks for you. And yes, sticks are useful for some of those really basic items in the game, but you're going to need it regardless, and it's better to get this than walk around the world and pick up sticks. This Pokemon specifically is going to be, okay, here's the honey. Where is it? Where are you running in? Where's the Pokemon? There they are. There's the Pokemon. This Pokemon is going to be Cacturne. Cacturne is going to consistently drop sticks all the time, so you'll be getting a bunch of sticks in the game. Now, in order for you to get Cacturne, it's going to be one of the easiest things in the game. It's going to be simply a tree-shaded flower bed. That's all you need. Any berry tree with 4 flowers connected, and you'll have Cacturne, and that's how easy it is to get started. Moving on. These are rocks, and believe it or not, this is not as simple as it may look. Now, rocks are dropped by a lot of fossil Pokemon. Fossil Pokemon are good at doing that. But the trick with fossil Pokemon is you have to be running around the entire world and breaking all the gold glowing objects you see. And those gold glowing objects may drop a piece of a fossil, which of course you can open up your main menu, go into collectibles, and check your status of your ancient artifacts and scroll over to fossils to see if you have all the pieces of the fossils. That's a pretty big deal. Once you get all the pieces of a certain fossil, there are a few fossil Pokemon that do drop rocks, and that's going to be Pokemon like Rampardos, Bastodon, Tyrantrum. I don't have Aurora unlocked, but it'll probably be unlocked in the video. But these 3 are going to just drop rocks. And rocks are pretty much another foundational material that could be used in a lot of roadways and other building designs. So that's pretty much what your rocks do. And fossil Pokemon are going to be pretty hard to put together. You're going to have to display all the fossils on an exhibition stand, which is pretty much their environment. You do unlock this exhibition stand right away as soon as you get your first fossil in the game. So this is not a little mysterious item. Just get these, stack them together, and put the fossil on top, and bam, you get a rock dropping litter Pokemon. Next item is going to be vine ropes. Now, vine ropes are the most common litter Pokemon material in the game, and there are a lot of Pokemon that drop it. You have a Pokemon at the beginning of the game like Bellsprout who drops it, and this is simply going to be a large tree next to any tall grass, so you can go ahead and get started right away at the start of the game. You also have Weepinbell, which is another Pokemon that does contain it. Pretty simple recipe, by the way, for Weepinbell and Victory Bell. You get a seat, a table, and a small vase, and you can get a Weepinbell that drops it. So that's pretty much how to get some quick early game Pokemon that do have it. And other Pokemon like Snivy, Servine, Serperior also have this, but they're much later on in the game, and you'll discover them as you go along. Next one is going to be Twine. I'm going to be honest, Twine's first immediate use is going to take place on the bleak beach because it's going to help you craft your own personal Ditto flags, which allow you to register houses in various locations in the game. That way you can fast travel very easily to your home spots. Twine specifically is going to be dropped by a bunch of bug Pokemon. Also, fun fact, I just realized right now, when you are summoning a Pokemon and they share close habitats, you want to press the R stick so you use the honey and it summons the correct Pokemon. Otherwise, it doesn't matter, even if you stand there patch and it's close, it's going to keep summoning the same Pokemon over and over again. So these Pokemon that you're going to get early on in the game that have Twine are going to be Spinarak and Ariados. These Pokemon are simple, as you can see. It is yellow tall grass next to each other, and there it is. Spinarak is the common one. Ariados is going to be the rare one. 4 simple grass right in Bleak Beach. Very simple, and you'll have these 2 Pokemon dropping Twine for you at a very fast rate. Now, the next item is going to be Fluff. Fluff is going to be an important item because this is what you put in your sofas, and a lot of furniture is based off of Fluff in the game. And one of the first Pokemon that you do encounter, again, is going to be at Bleak Beach. It's going to be your little Mareep. And Mareep's habitat is pretty simple. It's just a seat with any table and knitting supplies on top of that. And also you can get Flaffy from this, which also drops the exact same Fluff. Pretty nice. Later on in the game, you'll get Pokemon like Swablu, but this is pretty much going to be in the Sparkling Skylands, which is the final environment of the game. 4 grass together for Swablu, and if you want an Altaria, it's a pretty interesting thing. It's just a birdhouse next to a stylish hedge, which is probably the hedge that you find in the Sparkling Skylands. Okay, but where's the part where it's all a farm, and how is it done? You're gonna need Pokemon with a specialty called Gather, and what Gather Pokemon do is pretty simple. After an entire day has passed and all these Pokemon are here, or if you are the type of player that just date skips, the next day when you come over here, you'll find a bunch of items from the various Pokemon just on the floor here. All you do is then use honey in the specific location to call on the gathered Pokemon. They will both appear and they will start picking up all the items and putting it in what we call community boxes. As you can see, these are all the items pretty much displayed on our wall, and they are doing a good job at picking it up, so you don't have to worry too much. I put 2 habitats close by for Mincino and for Mr. Mime, which are 2 specific Pokemon that know the specialty called Gather. Mincino is a very easy Pokemon that you can get at the start of the game. It's pretty much going to be any closet next to any mirror large. That's a nice one to get. Mr. Mime is a much more later Pokemon in the game, which requires you to have a towel rack, a wall mirror, and a sink. But there's another easy Pokemon you can get at the start, which is Machop, and Machop is pretty simple. It's just going to be a large boulder next to tall grass, and Machop also builds, so that's pretty nice to have a build and gather Pokemon together. So if you need 2 Pokemon to run this entire farm, there's your 2. Of course, I'm interested in how you guys make this a lot prettier than this. This is just simple, and for you to start thinking about how to do your farms. Okay, welcome to the Basic 101 Brick and Iron Farm. Just ignore that golem up there. I don't know how he got up there, but he's up there. So I placed the Brick Farm and the Iron Farm together, and you'll see exactly why in a few seconds. So the setup for this is pretty simple. Over here, I have my furnace, and I have more of an advanced furnace over here. So the same exact thing. This just smelts faster when you put iron ores into it. Then it becomes iron ingots. Now, this is unlocked in the Rocky Ridges, and the 3 Pokemon currently working over here are actually from Rocky Ridges. Specifically over here is going to be Charcoal. Now, Charcoal is going to be found in Rocky Ridges when you go inside of this cave over here and go through this little train track area, and then you're eventually going to bump into it here. It's then going to have a request for you to make another similar environment for it, and when you do, you then have access to take this Pokemon wherever you want, which is what I did, but you can have your own smelting island wherever you want to put it. This is just to show you how to do it. Also, the exact same habitat, the railroad crossing, not only works for Charcoal, but it works for Roly-Coly as well as Colossus, so you get all 3 of these Pokemon. Now, what's so special about these 3 that we're using for this farm? Well, they do 2 specialties, each one of them. They all use burn, which means they can take squishy clay and turn into brick, as well as when you put iron ore into the furnaces, they can turn that iron ore into iron ingots, or if you're using copper or gold, they all turn them into ingots. The good thing as well is that they also gather, and you all know that anything that falls on the floor is what is going to be gathered by these Pokemon. Now, on the left over here, I have 2 Pokemon that specifically have the Litter specialty, and what Litter does for specifically Clodsire and for Trapinch is they're going to drop the squishy clay. 2 good Pokemon that you can get really early on that does this are going to be Clodsire and the Paldean Wooper that you're going to find at the Bleak Beach. All you need for these 2 Pokemon to show up is simply just grow yellow tall grass next to muddy water, which is right there in Bleak Beach in that one area where you initially encounter Wooper. After you complete Wooper's request, then you can move Wooper out of that area if you choose to do so, but I just wanted to show you where you can get both of these Pokemon. And if you're curious on Trappitch, this is on the final environment, which is going to be Sparkling Skyland. So that's pretty much why I suggest you start off with just Wooper and Clodsire and then eventually swap over depending on who's your favorite Pokemon. But those are the three that drop the squishy clay. All these Pokemon have Gather, so they're going to pick it up, they're going to drop it in there, and then they're going to turn it into bricks, which is pretty cool. And if we take a look at what's inside of here, you can see all these bricks that are being made, and they're probably turning the squishy clay right now into bricks. They grab things out of the community box and completely turn it into another material, which is pretty nice. Now you saw the brick farm on the left side. Let's talk about the iron farm on the right side. So on the right side, as you can see, there is surprisingly trash on the floor. And what is this? Iron ore that's on the floor naturally without having to go inside of a cave to mine? This is unheard of. Well, it's actually heard of because there is Pokemon that actually naturally drop iron ore, and these Pokemon are both going to be Glimmora and specifically Glimmet. Glimmet and Glimmora can easily be encountered inside of the rocky ridges, and their habitat is actually pretty simple for both of them. All you need to do is just go into the cave, and if you have leafage powered up with a food item, you're going to pull up on the rock, make little 4 moss blocks, place it next to a lantern and a wooden crate, and both of these Pokemon should spawn over there. But they have to be next to Stalagmites, so go and find these naturally inside of the cave to set up this environment. Once you get both of these Pokemon, you're going to increase the iron ores that are dropped. So if I pick this up, there you go. I got 3 iron ore right there, 5 iron ore in total, 7 iron ore, and total 10. Look at that, 10 iron ore. I'm slapping this in the furnace, and now I got 51 ready to go. In order to get that furnace cooking, let me just tell this guy right over here, thank you for the bricks. I appreciate it. And when you interact with the furnace and hit that, he's going to be like, oh, I'm ready to go. Your iron ores that you pick up go into the smelter, and then when Colossal and any of these fire Pokemon are not occupied, they will go ahead and just smelt that down for you into iron ingots. Now, what on earth is Garbodor doing here? Now, Garbodor has 2 specialties. One, it's going to recycle, which means it's going to turn certain items into certain items. And it also has a specialty called Litter, which means it's going to drop what you see on the floor over here, which is non-burnable garbage. And if you didn't know, non-burnable garbage converts into iron. So we are doubling up on iron production, and that's what it's doing right now. In fact, it even picks up all of these items, or the other Pokemon that I told you that have Gather are going to pick it up. They're going to drop it in here for our Garbodor to go ahead and work on and turn to iron ore, which is happening over here on the side. Look, he dumped in 20 iron ore, which is pretty cool. It's happening. So that's all compiling together into becoming an ultimate iron farm. We also have other Pokemon to drop more non-burnable garbage because on its own, it is sometimes occupied, and these Pokemon are going to be simply easy Pokemon. Like we got ourselves a Muck and we got ourselves a Grimer, and Grimer and Muck together are also going to be dropping a lot of these non-burnable garbage. So think of how much iron production we're having done right now, and we're not even going outside to punch blocks or mine. So this iron farm is beautiful. If you're curious on how to get these extra recyclable Pokemon like Muck and Grimer, let me show you. It's actually pretty simple. All you have to do is create this, a marsh fishing spot, and you should be able to create this anywhere. And you can see the Clodsire is also here, but like I mentioned, you should be able to create this even here because I taught you how to do the vending machine trick. And all you need to do is create a fishing rod and do this, and then you get yourself 2 Pokemon easily that can drop all of this. So all together, these entire Pokemon are going to work nicely together, drop things in these community boxes, and then you can also go back to your main treasure chest or your main storage box and drop everything inside of here and craft any specific items that you may need. But just know that all this stuff is in one place, and you're good for ores and you're good for bricks. A quick bonus tip for this area is that you can also convert sand into glass using these machines, and you can also convert any other ores into ingots. So use these for those as well. All right, time to talk to you all about the next big farm, which is lumber. Actually, there were people in my early game tips video who complained a lot about not being able to find lumber in the game, but here is the optimized solution for it. So as you can see, there are 3 habitats that I have here that are chopping wood, and you've seen this Pokemon already, a Mincino, who is going to be someone who does gather. Anytime they see logs on the floor, which is dropped by our Axew over here, they're going to pick it up and drop it in this community box. When this is dropped in the community box, all 3 of these lovely dragon Pokemon are going to get chopping. As you can see, Haxorus is chopping, Axew is chopping, and Fracture is chopping. Every single one of them are turning these logs into lumber. Now, the reason why this is so goated is because of the Haxorus pretty much just dropping the wood pieces every time because of its litter ability. Here it is, Haxorus, and I believe it's one of the only Pokemon in the game that does litter logs at the same time as chopping the logs, which is pretty good, which means you don't have to go around spending your time chopping around trees in Dream Road collecting the wood yourself, because they do it all and turn it into lumber. Now, the habitat for Haxorus, Axew, and Fracture are going to be pretty simple. In fact, I think it's even doable pretty early on in the game. So if we go over here to the first spot, you can see that it is the Lumberjack's workplace, which is simply going to be a log chair next to a cart, next to a log table, next to any tree stump. So you just have to chop a tree and you'll have a tree stump right there. Or if you happen to have a cozy log handicrafts habitat, that's all you need here. You get a log chair next to a log table and you grab that log bed and you can get all three of these Pokemon to show up. Just make sure to take out that Pokemon again and move it to another habitat, followed up by the next evolutions to spawn. And oh, hello, Caesar. This is another woodcutting Pokemon that has decided to stop by. Oh, he's also okay. Well, I'll be. All right. Thank you so much. Where you going? You just dropped the lumber off. All right. So yeah, you can have multiple woodcutting Pokemon. The more woodcutting Pokemon, the better. And as you can see, I'm just going to add this stack into here. And that community box is filling up very nicely. That's as simple as it needs to get for woodcutting, right? You just have to have a Pokemon with chop surrounded by one Pokemon that could at least chop the litter for logs. And you get all the lumber you need. And that's going to be your lumber farm. Now, let me tell you about the crush farm that is going on right now. As you can see, we have Tyranitar and Magmortar getting to work, just stepping on these little berries over here, turning them into actual paints. So the goal is to try to get every single tree in the game and find the seeds, plant them. And if you need to duplicate these trees, believe it or not, all you have to do to actually duplicate trees to get the different berry trees is simply open up your camera with the minus button. And when you open up the minus button, hit Y, you see that? And if you can see the name of the object, that's you securing the fact that you are going to be able to take a picture of it. Once you get your picture, let's say of the Chesto tree, something like that, you're then going to head over to the Pokemon Center, select the image that you took a picture of, and then you get the actual trees that you can place down. Not even seeds, the actual trees. But you're going to need rare Pokemetal for these trees. It's not cheap to get different berry trees, but once you get the farm set up, it's going to be very nice. And as you can see, I do have some more in my inventory. I just, wanted to keep it nice and open for the video recording for everybody. So what you first need to do is grab the berries and throw it inside the community box. Then the Pokemon with Crush are then going to approach it, take out the berries, and start crushing them and turning them into paint. So these Pokemon with Crush here, how do you get some of these Pokemon? Well, I got Tyranitar and Magmortar, which are third stage evolutions and pretty cool. These two specifically are not going to be too hard. Magmortar's items can be acquired right from Rocky Ridges. As you can see, it is one kitchen table, a cooking stove, a modern sink, and a frying pan, which are all things that you do if you are progressing in the main story in Rocky Ridges, and you'll find these items laying around. Here's something else that's really cool. If we go over to Tyranitar, Tyranitar has two habitats, but the one that's pretty easy to get is by using the Mossy Rest Spot. And if you already got Larvitar, then you're simply just going to get Tyranitar because that's the only Pokemon left to spawn in the Mossy Rest Spot. That's simple, and you got two amazing Pokemon that can go ahead and crush stuff, and Tyranitar can also bulldoze, while Magmortar has the ability to burn. So it's they're like, they do double things, which is pretty cool. Also, hey buddy, what's going on? Oh, look at that. We got more lumber while we were talking about this farm in this area. Very cool. Now, these berries that they are crushing are going to be turned into things like paint. We got red paint, blue paint, white paint. Let's see what Magmortar's up to. Got some green paint, very cool. And let's see what Tyranitar's up to. You got any paint over here? 20 bowls of red paint, sheesh. And then what we could do is, let's say, is this chest empty? Oh, this chest is empty, great. We can take this chest, and I've kind of put my smear group. Oh, he's not here. We are going to pull this up and make this Pokemon come here. Now, in order to unlock Smearguru and be able to move him around, they have a quest on Bleak Beach where you do have to go ahead and find a Pokemon with Crush and then give them a berry, get the berry crushed with the paint, come back to Smearguru, and that's pretty much all Smearguru's entire quest line is, and then you're pretty much free to go and do whatever you want with Smearguru and get items done. Anyway, once you do that, you can transfer Smearguru where you want, and that's why I'm over here right now with the Smearguru. So I'm going to talk to Smearguru, and I'm going to get the option to paint something for me. There we go. And let's say I want to paint this radio. I'm gonna go select the radio, select color 1, and it also has options for color 2, which I didn't even know how detailed this game is, by the way. I did not know you could dual color certain items like this. And it is now a purple. Oh, I don't have purple. I'm trying to do things that I don't have. This is pretty funny. We'll do green and red. We'll make a very holiday radio, and we'll paint that, and we're done. And then we can go ahead and display our lovely radio right over here. Right over here. I also realized I just grabbed that chest in order to change the color, but I still went with the radio. So there we go. You got the example with the radio, which probably came up better than the chest. Now that's just one part of our crush farm. There is a separate part, but it requires you to technically farm and then give the Pokemon the goods. Now the second part of our crush farm has to do with these lovely devices that you'll discover in the game later on in the Sparkling Skylands. These are going to be concrete mixers, and they have to be placed next to a body of water. Now all you need to operate is a Pokemon who has crush, and in order to get the items for it, you have to get limestone. It's pretty much limestone. Now, in order to get limestone, what you have to do is go over to the Clefairy doll to access its specific Dream Island. Once you're there, you can go turn into the Graveler, roll that form, and just knock over as much limestone as you want, and get out and come back. Now, we do have another crush Pokemon that for some reason is not doing his job and talking Tyranitar, and it's going to be Golem. So if I just simply take Golem and head over to one of these, and I just hit A like this, Golem's going to get to work, and because Tyranitar, not a chance you're leaving right now. He thought he crushed all the berries and he was done. You will get back to work, buddy. We'll put Tyranitar on this one over here. Tyranitar. Let me know how you pronounce that, guys. Get to work. There you go. And concrete's going to be used again for a lot of building materials, but you don't have to worry about concrete until you arrive at the Sparkling Skylands. Now Golem's specific habitat is going to be the mossy boulder. This is also obtainable inside of the rocky ridges. And you would know that because it's exactly the same one as Graveler. And you can't get the Graveler ability without getting Graveler. So if you already made this, put this Pokemon in another biome, in another habitat, and then you can spawn in Golem with no issues. And that's how you have Crush Pokemon. Let me see how fast it's going over here. All right, maybe we'll check in a couple of hours. But that's how you get your concrete. And that's the farm, everybody. All right, we're back. And what? Is that a new habitat? Oh, no, it's done. Oh, when you have the sparkles, it means it's done. So we're going to go ahead and click on use. Whoa, and we have more in here. Remove all. Yeah, and we got ourselves some concrete. So probably the best scenario would be to probably put a crafting table in the area so you can grab the concrete and make whatever crafting blocks you like. But there you go. That is pretty much the setup. I like keeping Pokemon with similar specialties close to each other so they can perform tasks. Look at these guys still wood cutting, and everyone's doing their job. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out this Pokopia video on your screen right over here.